All right, what's happening, y'all? So, I called up my dad the other day, and I had this genius idea, which everyone else is doing right now, but I just thought it would be a really cool way for us to kind of do something fun, do something out of the blue, because we have all these lengthy conversations that we like to do regarding real estate and stuff like that, but we just haven't had the time to. We do a lot of short form videos in the past, and so I thought a podcast would be the perfect solution for some of these conversations that both my dad and I and Helene have throughout the day. And so this is just a preemptively called Alan up on the phone, and we put the scene together. We don't even know if we know the mics are working, but we don't know much else. So
it's totally unscripted, and it'll be completely off the cuff.
So this is episode 1 of, I guess it would be the Team Fasnacht podcast. I'm assuming that's the name right
now. It could be Mike's World.
Mike's World, but that's fine too. So, but anyways, we're going to sit down. I'm going to ask Alan some questions and, just get his point of view. He's been in the real estate industry for quite some time now, so I guess that leads us into the first question that I have for you is really how or why did you get into real estate?
My parents had an interest in real estate as I was going through junior high school and high school, and my mom had gone into business. She wanted something better for our family. My dad worked at Douglas Aircraft. He was in management. He had a good salary, but they were striving to do better. And she ended up buying a dress shop in California Heights. It was at Wardlow and Orange, and it was called the Baldwin Style Shop. And she worked there for many years, and she decided that she wanted to get into real estate. And she saw how some of the people that were in real estate were doing, and wanted to give it a try. My dad had always talked about owning apartments and buying them and investing in real estate. And they, weren't sure how to do it or if they even had the means to do it. And so they start in the mid-1960s. They bought an apartment building. We actually still have that apartment building. And they bought a second one and some other properties, and they got started with investing. My mom sold her sold her dress shop to a realtor who wasn't doing all that well in the real estate business. A lot of people get into real estate and they don't do that well. It takes a while to build up your business, and it's a kind of easy entry, fast exit business is the way it's been described. And so anyway, my mom sold the dress shop to a lady, and she became a realtor, and she was very successful at it. She was had a real good personality, and she was just made for doing well in real estate. She actually did, within 2 years, she was making more money in real estate commissions than my dad was as a manager at Douglas, which was kind of a feat.
That's pretty amazing, especially for that time back then, especially as a woman. And
well, she was really good at the dress shop. She made that a success, but she carried that over to the real estate business. And it was funny at first. His ego had a little bit of a blow to it, but then he looked at what they were able to do and where they were able to go, and he goes, well, heck, you need to have an open house every Sunday. And so they ended up treating open house like date night, and she would have open houses every weekend, and then they would go out to dinner at the same restaurant and have the same waitress. And it just really seemed to help their whole relationship, which I thought was an interesting thing to see happen. And until my father died in I think it was 1975 he passed. Anyway, they just had a really good relationship at the end.
And that's interesting that you say that, because and this is, you actually really haven't opened up to me about, that whole relationship dynamic. And I kind of see that with you and, Mom or Helene.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys like to go to open house, and you guys like to go to your favorite spots afterwards and kind of.
Yeah, we kind of make it fun. We have a good time with it. It's, we owned an office, and at one time we had, over 150 agents in 2 offices, and we had mortgage company and escrow company and property management. And, I don't know that, the truth be told, I did the best job at managing all of it. I was able to put it together, and we had it for over 20 years. But I like this a lot better. I like working in this small family brokerage, and I really don't want to have any other people to attempt to manage. I have enough trouble managing myself and following through and doing the things I should do to create success. So anyway.
So going back to kind of what you've established here, kind of your own company, your own kind of real estate broker. You are the broker. You own the company, the Team Fasnacht name. What is kind of your role in the company?
Yeah, unfortunately for Helene and Mike, my role is just talking. Oh, that's all I want to do. I mean, I really don't want to do any of the other work. I shouldn't even say that. That just sounds terrible to admit that. But, I like to do the things I like to do and the things that I'm good at.
How long have you been working in this industry? 40 some odd years?
Yeah, in 1975 I got my license, and
so you paid your dues. You've done.
I've paid my dues,
and you can throw some. You set it up how you want to set it up, and
Yeah, I owned a mortgage company in the. What was it, about 1980? And I had partners in it, and then I started another one, and I was the sole owner of it. And then I built a bunch of houses with a partner. We built 40 houses in about 3 years, and mostly in North Long Beach and Norwalk and Bellflower. And then I ended up buying Century 21 Landmark Properties in 1991. I really didn't have a clue I knew how to do real estate, but I didn't necessarily know how to run a real estate company. So it was kind of like...
that sounds stressful.
It was stressful, I will tell you that.
What was kind of going, like, your mindset? Like, did you have, like, a morning routine? Like, how did you... Or did you just fly by the seat of your pants? And
Probably flew by the seat of my pants a lot, which I still do. I'm kind of a fire-ready aim guy, to tell you the truth. And some people are just, put a sharp pencil to everything and really agonize over figuring things out and struggle with making decisions. And, I'm just one of those guys that just likes to try things and take risks and move forward. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But at the same time, you learn a lot along the way, and you got to figure your way out of problems that you create. So yeah, I guess I'm okay with it.
Yeah, so kind of changing up the subject, I mean, I would say the number one question I hear from people is, how's the market? How's the market? So I wanted to ask you this question. How is the market today?
Well, it's weird. It's never the same. I have stories that I tell everybody about inflation and high interest rates. The first house I bought, Jim Smith was the realtor that sold it to me. I was a school teacher at the time, and he said, "You'll never see 5.25% again." This was 1970 that I bought the house, and I took over I was able to assume a loan that a veteran had, and he was getting a divorce and wanted out of it, and I got this house with this low interest rate loan, 5.25%, and everybody today is whining because they can't get 2%. So, I went through that whole, my career started when Jimmy Carter was in office, and we had runaway inflation, wage and price controls, Arab oil embargo. It was a wild time, but I saw inflation taking off and the value of our money continuing to drop. And, our real estate values took a dip in 2010 for a short period of time. But there's been other points in time when the economy wasn't so good and everybody got squeezed down a little bit, but it always came back. And it always has come back. Even in the Great Depression in the 1930s, the people that made a lot of money in real estate. And it was a good investment if you did it wisely and didn't overdo it. That being said, I've overdone things before. So we're just trying to be smart now and keep going. But your question was, how's the market? And the market actually is really good for sellers right now, even though it's not considered as much of a seller's market. And it's a seller's market because there's really very few properties for sale. And it's kind of common sense that it's basic economics, the supply and demand. And the only problem is it's always a problem when you have sellers that are over enthusiastic over what their property's worth. And if you overprice a property in this market today, it will sit and you won't be able to sell it. If the market shifted in August of this last year, that's when the interest rates went up, and everybody was doom and gloom, and then all of a sudden there's not a lot of properties for sale anywhere in Southern California, period. Even in areas that have more product to sell, like in San Bernardino and Riverside County, those places, I was just down in Riverside County today and looking at some property, and I can see that the market has definitely softened there, and that's because there's more stuff for sale. There are new homes coming out of the ground, and there's recently sold newer homes, and there's just more things available and fewer people to buy them, and I can see that they're having a little bit of a tough time.
Yeah, I think that's interesting when it comes to you looking at different areas and stuff like that, because it's almost really hyper local. Would you say that kind of what tends to be a buyer's or a seller's market in the sense of housing stock and neighborhood and vibe and feel stuff?
Yeah,
like that.
everything is real hyper local, and Will Rogers, famous guy from the 19th century writer, and he said, buy land. They stopped making it. I always remember that. It's a good thing, and especially if it's land that's by where somebody wants to be, because it's by the Pacific Ocean or it's by the Atlantic Ocean in New York City, wherever it is, any major hub. But if you're out in the middle of some crazy desert town, Darwin, California, for example. I saw a video on YouTube about Darwin, California. There's like 40 people that live there. And, you can buy, a bucket of sand there, and it's Darwin, California is an interesting place. Look at YouTube, Darwin, California.
I'm going to have to now.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's not like, everybody wants to be down by the beach and they want to buy a great big house for a little bit of money. And it just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, it's tough. Especially in Southern California. So kind of wanted to switch things up, kind of get some more background information.
Yes, sorry for the rambling dialogue. I get started.
I think that's why this is the perfect platform for you.
Okay.
Because then you just go off on these tangents and they're great. And so I really want, obviously I kind of know, but the viewers to know a little bit more about your childhood and how you grew up, and kind of how, especially because we do a lot of business here in Long Beach, and how it has transformed, because I've heard stories of like dirt roads and oil fields and a lot of pollution. And so I kind of just wanted you to share with everyone else kind of how,
well,
it was back then.
Because it was back then. It's kind of like, going back and looking at 1883 or Yellowstone, the precursor to Yellowstone, and seeing how was it back then in those old days. Well, I was born in 1947. My father came home from World War II, and he and my mom had got married during the war. And as soon as he got home, she was pregnant, and they had me. And they had my brother 5 years later. My dad bought a house on Olive Avenue in California Heights with a CalVet loan. And they still have CalVet loans. Not that many people utilize a CalVet loan, but that's a whole nother story for an hour ramble. But anyway, they bought this house, and I grew up there. And I went to school in the neighborhood in Bixby Knolls. It was Longfellow Elementary School, Hughes Junior High, and Poly High School. I guess I grew up in the 1950s. It's not I guess I grew up in the 1950s. I did grow up in the 1950s. I went all the way through all the schools here and hung around. In 1965, I'd graduated from high school. And if you ever saw the movie American Graffiti, that was a lot. That's the way I grew. That's the year I graduated. That's the year the guys in the show graduated, and all that stuff in the movie was kind of stuff that happened and went on, and we did, from chasing blondes and looking for racing cars, and anyway.
So, how was, like, because it seems to me I've looked at like old photos and stuff and like seen like oil derricks at the beach, and kind of what was kind of like, I've always wondered, like, how was the beach scene back then? Like, were the houses that expensive back then as they are now?
No, it was different. It was really different. In fact, my mother was born in a kind of they called it like a tar paper shack in Huntington Beach, because my grandfather was in the oil business, and they went across country to settle in Huntington Beach, where he worked in the oil fields there, and he made pretty good money. And they were able to finally buy a farm on 17th Street in Garden Grove. It's now a self-storage location. But she grew up on a little farm in Garden Grove. But at the time she was born, she was right at Huntington Beach. And I remember as a kid looking out from the pier in Huntington Beach, was kind of and that was Main Street. And that was about all there was. Huntington Beach was out by itself. And as you went south of Huntington Beach, you would just see a forest of wooden derricks, Texaco Oil. They were just pumping and getting the oil out of the ground.
Was there a lot of pollution in the air? Was there smog or?
Well, California, Los Angeles Basin is a natural producer of smog, because it's got the mountains that ring around it, and then it fronts onto the ocean, and it's almost like putting the lid on a kettle of water, and you trap all the moisture, and smog was always around. The Indians called it the Valley of Smokes. And part of it was from La Brea tar pits, where the prehistoric animals died in the tar pits. Well, the tar pits was because it had lots of oil. It just bubbled out of the ground, and then the big old saber-toothed tigers got stuck in the tar pits. I mean, that's been a local story forever. And the other thing was, people just didn't think there was a problem with too many things, and so when I was a kid, I remember it got really bad smoggy. I mean, it was almost, on some of the days, it would be like really hot, and the smog would the whole atmosphere was brown. And one of the big problems, besides the cars that were huge polluters, people burned their trash in the backyard. There was a garbage man that came by with an open truck that people would put out a garbage pail and then throw it in the trunk. It was really disgusting. Oh my God. And then most of the people built incinerators in their backyard, and they burned all their trash. And I got to tell you, we didn't have as much trash then that we do now, because we just, you get all these Amazon boxes, every day we get like a pile of them, and
plastic wrap and
bubble wrap and all the rest of that crazy stuff, Plastic was an amazing invention, but it probably could be it is a gigantic problem. So anyway. So
going off the trash thing, I noticed quite a bit of homes in this neighborhood where we're at in Bixby Knolls right now, currently. Bixby Knolls, California Heights, even Los Cerritos. quite a few homes dating back in that time had outdoor fireplaces. Now, were those fireplaces meant for just trash, or did people utilize those as kind of a, let's hang out back here on the...
They were kind of both.
Oh, okay.
I think they were multi-purpose. And, the house that we're in today was built in 1941, and it had this great big chimney in the backyard, fireplace, and people used it. It had a section for being a barbecue, and there were a lot of those fireplaces that were in different backyards. It started to crumble, and I took it down. It was in a bad location for what we were trying to do with the yard, and I regret taking it down.
I was about to say, you shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, because you can't put that back up. But it's a cool feature that we like to see around here. So just going off that and kind of changing the subject again, what are your thoughts of, the new generation coming up, like my generation of millennials and even, younger kids today? Like, what are your thoughts?
It's interesting. When Helene and I got married, I was 41 years old, so I was and then we immediately had 3 kids. I mean, really, we had 3 kids in 4 years. And, so I've always had to embrace millennials because they're my kids. I suppose I could have, a 60-year-old, well, not about a 60-year-old, but a 50-year-old kid anyway. But anyway, it's kind of funny.
Inappropriate. But anyways.
Yeah, totally inappropriate. I get that way sometimes too. I lost my train of thought a little bit.
What do you think of kids nowadays?
I like
millennials. Even
millennials went through the recession of 2010, and I think they experienced a little bit of angst and stuff with what went on in that recessionary period. And it seems to me that a lot of the millennials are heeding warnings from parents and stuff that said, be careful what you do, save your money, work hard. And, a lot of people think millennials are a pain in the ass. I think they're not. I think they're pretty industrious, and a lot of them have achieved a lot of success early. And there's a lot of young people that are working in the tech industries that are making amazing amounts of money in their salaries, and they're doing really well and being somewhat entrepreneurial and being better savers and a little more frugal, except in the area of going out to dinner and wasting money on a lot of expensive food and stuff. But yeah, that's a personal thing that you might have a problem with.
Life's about experiences and memories.
It is about experiences, exactly. So
I just think it's a different mindset. I think we're living in an age where, I think just kind of looking back at your generation, kind of looking back at, I think you guys saved a lot of stuff. Kept didn't throw away a lot of things and reuse stuff, and it was all about utilizing everything that you could get to the utmost.
Well, there's a reason for that, and it was from my parents' generation, and the greatest generation in America. Seriously, because they were the ones that, fought in World War II and fought through the Depression of the 1930s and didn't have a lot, and they saved everything. And I remember my first job growing up was straightening nails and sorting nuts and bolts into Gerber baby food jars that you nail the lid to the underside of a cabinet, and then you'd screw the jar into it, and then there would be all the nuts and bolts in a neat little place. And so, and my dad would go to the hardware store, the lumber yard, and buy pieces of wood or molding, and he would keep the extra pieces. He wouldn't ever throw them away or burn them. We'd keep most of the extra wood, and then it would be put somewhere where we would save it in case we needed it. We wouldn't throw away. If we removed doors from a property, we would save the doors because we might need them again. And so today you go to, I just saw a garage from some friends of ours that moved to a different location today, and they had their garage door open. We happened to drive by their house, and I go, oh my God, their garage is packed to the roof. All this stuff. It's like they moved. I mean, how do you move and not get rid of some of that stuff? But I'm not making a judgment, just an observation.
Well, I just recently moved, and it's crazy, like the amount of stuff that you can accumulate in a short period of amount of time, let alone 30 years where you've been in some place.
I know. And, and people have, I think my generation, the baby boomers, was, I don't want to say they were more sentimental than the millennials or the Gen Xers, but I guess we just seem to get attached to stuff and save it. And, you guys are not the big savers. You're saving money, but you're not saving all this extra junk,
I also think it's, just coming from my point of view, I think life's a little bit more, it's more than just money. I think it's what's the famous words that there's you can be wealthy in different areas of life. It's not just wealthy in money. It could be
absolutely
wealth in
not.
time. It could be wealth in experiences, or love, or So I think our generation puts that in money in a different category than some other things. So.
Well, it's just also, I think it's the compression of information, and everything is moving at a much faster pace. I don't know that anybody gets any more done than they used to get done, but it seems like everything is at just rapid pace, and even stuff on social media stuff where they go from a podcast. I mean, is somebody going to look at a podcast on YouTube and watch it for an hour or two? I have. Yeah, because it's there. But now they're doing shorts, because we got Instagram and everything is these, don't talk for more than 2 minutes because nobody will listen. I remember hearing that the attention span of a human is less than a goldfish, and a goldfish's attention span is 6 seconds. Well, in case you were wondering.
I was off in another space last week. All right, well, I think we've been going on long enough. One thing I wanted to leave off was, what is your ideal home? What do you find is like, that's the home that I've always wanted, or that's the home that is perfect for me?
Well, the house we live in was a house that I knew about, and when it came up for sale and I looked at it, it to me seemed to be a great house, a perfect house. And
so why was it? So are you saying that this house is the perfect house that you're living in right
now? Well,
it
is right now, and I like it.
Why?
But we've also made it our own and changed it through the years. And the thing that I liked about it, the best
was it the lot? Was it the land?
Yeah,
it was
a
size,
large lot and a pretty good sized house. And the fact that we were buying it from the original owner, and nobody messed with it. Nobody did, extra remodeling when, foil wallpaper was in style, or some of the other trends in decor. My parents lived in a house over on Olive Avenue, and I remember my dad was always trying to modernize it, and they started putting the acoustical ceilings on, and he thought, well, let's modernize it, and we'll spray the ceilings with acoustic, and then it'll last really good forever, and you can just paint over it if you want to. And he sprayed the ceilings with acoustical sealing, and then when the house recently sold, the guys immediately had to go scrape it all off, because that is not acceptable anymore. But you go through all these different things, and it seemed like the last couple of years everybody wants to open up all the houses and make them mid-century, and there are a few mid-century houses that are left. A lot of them have been ruined because people remodeled them into a Tuscany style house or whatever, but I think people, their tastes change, the colors change, the furniture changes, but they keep kind of things rotate. You know, what's in style isn't going to stay in style very long. Things change real quick. You can almost tell when the house was last decorated and, you know, what style it is, and then the people that are living there think everything's really nice, and we come in and talk to them and say, you know, it's kind of dated.
Yep.
Yeah, particularly with people in my generation that might have had, you know, they've been in their house a long time and they fixed it up the way they wanted to fix it, and they put in this, you know, what they thought was really nice at the time, and it's still in good shape and looks good, but
it's not what everyone's looking for.
It's not what what the young millennials are looking for. So, anyway.
Well, cool. Yeah, I think this was great. Do you have anything else to add?
I think, you know, real estate is just probably the best way to get control of your life and your investment. And if you could buy property, you need to do that. I remember a guy became my friend who was a tenant, and he rented an apartment from me. And he because he was going through a divorce, and he had a nice house. And I met his wife. She was an ex-wife, and she was very nice. They had kids and stuff. He was a great guy. And he rented an apartment from me. And then he kept saying, well, if you ever see something good, let me know. And every once in a while, I'd say, hey, what about this over here? Would you like that? And I don't want to say his name. He might watch this if we do anything with it. But, you know, I'm showing him this house, and I'm going, this is a really good deal. And I said, you know, you've lived in the apartment and you've paid me the rent. I've actually never raised your rent. He was a really cool guy. He was a highway patrolman. Anyway, I said, I just want to tell you that my kids really appreciate the fact that you've paid me $250,000 over the last, I don't know, it was 8 or 9 years. You really did a great job of paying for their education.
That's wild.
That was wild. He bought the house, by the way, and still lives there.
Well, I think that's a great stopping point. And tell us what you guys think of this. We can keep on doing this, or, you know, stop it at episode 1. I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. Kind of sit down, kind of you guys get to know us, and we get to open up in kind of an open format that we kind of like to ramble on and do these tangents on. And
you know, we did some videos, Know Your Neighborhood, and I was talking about different neighborhoods in Long Beach. And then every once in a while, I'll get a random comment from somebody about our video. You know, and they're going, that's not what I remember about the neighborhood. And you said that wrong. You pronounced it wrong. And you know, it's wild how people come back at you. It's okay. I don't care.
Well, I think that's just, you know, part that just comes with the territory. So.
Got it.
Yeah. Episode 1 of I guess we're calling it the Team Fasnacht podcast. Is that what we're thinking?
Whatever you want, Mike.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Signing off.